at 1:01 on February the 6th. It's the monthly meeting of the Crown River Valley Healthcare District Board of Directors. We'll call it to order as such. Approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any changes they'd like to see on the agenda? Obviously, Rick Jackson has not made it here as of yet. So we'll proceed without Mr. Jackson and then jump in and allow him to have the floor.
Yep, that sounds like a good plan.
Mr. Elliott, Mr. Parks, Ms. Catherine, do you have any changes to the agenda?
I do not have any. Thank you.
None for me either.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Do we need a motion on the agenda? Or we just
Motion to accept.
Okay, motion to accept. Okay. Mr. Elliott, your vote.
Yes.
Mr. Parks,
Yes.
Ms. Catherine,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay. Ross, would you be kind enough to lead flag salute Ms. Catherine on invocation?
Yes.
Certainly. Okay, we do our flag salute first, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please hand over your heart and repeat after me. Salute, pledge. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Here's a republic
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Somebody's typing away.
Sounds like it. It's not me
All
though.
right. Sorry, Ms. Catherine.
It's okay. No worries. Lord, I just want to come before you and thank you for the opportunity to thank individuals that work for this hospital, to encourage those that work here, Lord, and to operate closely with the community to bring their desires and needs to this community. I just ask that you be with us as we walk through many different items, whether it be building in for the hospital, whether it be the grand opening for the thrift store, Lord. I just ask that you be with each one of the board members and those that are here, and that you just be with us as we walk through to do your bidding. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Okay. Our mission statement is on the agenda for all to read. I will not reread it at this time. But public comment, do we have anyone from the public that would wish to be heard on items not on the agenda? Seeing none. Welcome, Rick. Let's go ahead and move on.
And
to
I'll go
D.
ahead and,
Sir.
I could go ahead and introduce, he's the managing partner of JWT and Associates. He's been our auditor the last several years, and we will turn over the first agenda item over to Rick on the results of our fiscal 2022 financial audit.
Thank you.
Okay, are you ready then?
Yes.
All right. I believe everybody has the financials have been distributed to them.
The packet, it starts on page 5 in the packet.
Okay, the audit, basically, we dated it back in December. We were waiting for the cost report. For some reason, it was a little bit later this year. Dave, I'm not sure why, but
Yeah, it was Whipfley, who does the cost report. They ran into some other more pressing priorities, so we had to submit an extension but it didn't hurt any of our payments. We didn't, Medi-Cal didn't cut off any of the payments, so it really was just a formality of getting a little bit of an extension. But you're right, usually that report has been completed by the end of Thanksgiving week, and in this case it was about a month late.
at any rate, what we have to do is, because you're what we call a CAW hospital, critical access hospital, the Medicare cost report has some significant financial information in it. And so we have to wait for that cost report to be prepared in order to finalize the statements. That usually is our last adjustment. But with that said, let's go to page 9, or actually page 9 on the financial statements would be, I believe, what, page 14 maybe? 15, which is the balance sheet, assets and liabilities. Here we go. There we go, right there. Okay. All right, you can see that the assets last year, 40 million, this year about 39 million. Not a lot of changes in the assets. Cash is down a little bit, but nothing to be concerned about. No real changes in the complements of the assets. Liabilities, again, you're notably the current liabilities last year about 6 million. This year they're down to about 5 million, which is wonderful. That's great to have those down. And then the other long-term liabilities are down some. Those are made up of basically some reserves for some different programs that come through the state, come through the federal government. It's a combination of several different programs that we have reserved for. And then finally, the debt borrowings are down too. So
Rick, could I ask you a question when we're in the spot, or should I wait to ask the questions after you have finished?
No, go ahead right now. It'd be fine.
Okay, do we have assumptions in there for IGT, which we might not be getting? How's that handled?
ICT or IGT? Well,
IGT, the intergovernmental transfer.
yeah, there's reserves. There's the reserves there are made up. There's several different programs that
Well, did you deal with them? Because we didn't get the money for some of them, and we possibly might lose some of them. So, you know, there's an assumption we might keep them. I mean, how'd you deal with it?
we basically, if we on a conservative basis, we allow for those as if we're not going to get some of that, and if they're going to be taking some back. Just for an example, you had the take back on the skilled nursing facilities a while back, and we're not sure if that's going to continue or not, but we have some reserves set up for that. Again,
Well,
it's a combination of several types, IGT included, yes.
Right now, as we speak, Tim was talking about some real problems with some of the hospitals that were, because they're not getting those. Are they going to get them?
I'm going to jump in, Rick, if you don't mind.
Yes,
go ahead.
We've had some back and forth since I started in my role here in trying to re-educate the board. Chad had led the board to believe that IGTs specifically are historically items that hospitals have to return the money. And I categorically said that that's not true, that was not really the way the auditors ended up posting that at the end of each year. And I think Gene forgot that I said that. Now there is some certain things related to the COVID payments that we clearly have to hold back and keep it in payables. But IGTs, I don't believe was ever appropriate to assume that we'd have to pay back IGT amounts. And that's kind of why Rick's a little bit confused with the question.
Well, the COVID was IGT also, wasn't it?
No, that's a little bit different.
Okay. Okay,
So-
did we account for that?
Yeah, COVID's a federal grant program, which HRSA, we are not sure yet what and if HRSA is going to do with those COVID funds, if they're going to audit those, or if they're just going to pass on them, or a combination thereof.
But are we assuming they're not going to audit them? What in this report?
No, we are assuming that we may be audited, and so we have some reserves in there. Now, in another year or two, depending on how fast the federal government moves, they may or may not audit that. We don't know at this point.
Okay, but those were taken into consideration. Okay, thank you, Rick and Dave.
You bet. Okay, if we go to the next page, then is the income statement. And again, a very good year. If you look at the very top number, 35 million versus 28 million. Although the volumes were generally the same, a lot of that is components with, so again, some of these supplemental programs, grants, things of that nature. That's why the increase is pretty high there. But we'll take those. I mean, that's great. And then if you look at the expenses are just a tad higher than they were last year, which is great. You're keeping those in check. So, and then coming down to the non-operating areas, big number last year, you had the forgiveness of the PPP debt. That's gone away, but that was the big item last year. So, but all in all, a good increase, 4.5 million. I think that's one of the best years you've ever had. So. Any questions on the P&L?
No, sir, not for myself.
Okay. The next one, next page, the next statement, I'm not going to go into it too much, but it's just, it's what we call the statement of cash flow. It basically takes you from one cash position on the balance sheet to the other. If you look at in the 2022 column, the last two numbers, the 18 million and the 16 million, that just shows you from the general operating cash of 18 million last year versus 16 million this year. Those were the ins and outs, kind of what affected cash, and it's just there for information. And then finally, if you look at the footnotes starting on the next couple pages, the footnotes are again basically the same. If you page down a little bit, Dave, go down to the next page, next page, one more page. Right there. The second paragraph down from the top where it says recently adopted accounting pronouncements. A lot of hospitals had to go through, we had to do what we call a lease recognition analysis.
Which page is that? What page are you on, sir?
23.
Page 17 or page 23.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. There was a new GASB 87 out that came in this year, and most of the district hospitals that we went through had to apply what we call this lease recognition, whereas basically you had to capitalize leases. We analyzed your leases and both on a revenue side and on the expense side, noting that none of your leases actually qualified for this new GASB 87, so we could pass on that, which was good. So just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Dave, go back up a little bit to the COVID grant right there. Keep going down. Keep going down, right there, note C. Okay, you can see the hospital received 1.5 million, and again, Dave, most likely do, you remember we had to do the single audit because of the COVID, and anytime you receive grant funds, federal grant funds over 750,000 in 1 year, you have to do a single audit. So I believe, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're going to have another single audit that will be due.
That's correct.
Yeah, that will be due at the end of March 31 of 2023. And so we'll be attacking that pretty soon, and it should be pretty straightforward. So
This is a good example of what Gene was asking us. This has not been booked to the P&L yet.
So at any rate, we'll again report to HRSA the usage of those funds. And again, they may audit that depending on what they do.
So when that audit comes through and if this is cleared, then that will hit us for 2023, then we'll take that. Is that correct?
Will it be done by the end of this fiscal year, Rick?
Well, the single audit will be filed again. If you remember, we had to file one at the end of September of 2022. This is round 2, which is going to be due March 31 of 2023.
So it's before the end of the fiscal year, so we
Yes.
could.
Yes, So we'll report that, and again, whether HRSA, this will be the second single audit that we submit. So they'll have two single audits in front of them. Whether they decide to audit those again, it remains to be seen. We haven't heard of anything yet from HRSA with all the hospitals that we do where anybody is being audited on their funds. So we did have some state funds that there was the COVID program. And we did have one district hospital where the state came in and audited those and came up with no findings. So at any rate, we'll see what happens with those.
It's Ross.
And then finally, the rest of the notes in the notes area are pretty much the same that we standard notes for a hospital. As you page through those, pretty standard. Again, just explain some of the more information that's is encompassed in the balance sheet and in the P&L. So anyway, that pretty much concludes the audit. Again, a very good year. Barbara and Dave, they do wonderful as far as the accounting, and Dave, I don't think we had any adjustments.
Not material, no.
Nothing material, yeah. So
Barbara did a great job, I thought.
yeah, she always does. Mhm. Okay, any questions then?
Ms. Catherine,
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Elliott,
No questions. I'm good. Thank you. That was appreciate your work on this, Rick.
Okay, well, thank you. And thanks for letting me go first.
of
I'm
course.
actually in Arizona on another hospital audit, so I can get back to work.
Great. Gene, do you have any questions?
Do we need a motion to approve it?
Motion
To accept.
receive and file.
Sorry.
Motion to receive and file.
Yeah, motion to receive and file, Gene.
Okay, I'll do that, or I'll do Catherine's, and I'll second her if she was making it.
She hadn't yet. Would you like to present the motion, Gene?
Yes.
Just Catherine?
I'll
You want
second.
second? Let's
I
vote
will.
on it. All right,
Absolutely.
let's vote on it. Gene, your vote?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Mr. Elliott?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it very much.
Okay, thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Moving on to item E, consent agenda. The following items are considered routine and non-controversial by hospital staff and the board. All list items or action items will be approved in one motion unless a member of the board would like to have one of these items removed or pulled for discussion. Do we have a motion to accept or anything to be removed at this time?
Motion to approve.
Okay. A
I'll second.
All, Gene, your vote? Director Parks? You're on mute, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Elliott,
Yes.
Ms. Catherine,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
Okay, yes. Did you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Move down to the reports, foundation report, Ms. Deb.
So the Heart Walk's right around the corner. I would invite any of the board members or administration, if you so feel inclined, to sponsor a team or give us a sponsorship. I do want to thank some of the board members that's already stepped up. That's going to be on at the high school, like always. And this year we're looking, it's not confirmed yet, but we're looking to do something instead of chili. We're looking at Caesar salad with chicken and minestrone soup. So we're trying to change it up. And that's my report for the foundation.
Okay.
For the auxiliary, Thursday is our grand reopening. Both chambers will be there to do a ribbon cutting at about 9 o'clock. And then they're giving out 30 tickets for 20% off. They're also doing a drawing for a $50 gift card. That'll be at 1 o'clock. And they're asking for people to be present for that drawing. I was over there this morning. I don't know if any of you kind of peeked in, but it looks so nice compared to what it was.
It does,
Gorgeous.
Mark and I drove down last week and
It's so.
met with them, and I tell you, the staff is thrilled. I mean, the auxiliary members just
I
love it.
have no doubt.
Yeah, it's
They've been-
so much better organized, and you can see it's wide open.
It's more
They
of a
took
department
one of
store
the-
feel.
They cleared one of the windows. It's a huge block glass window that they cleared, and now you got light coming through there and so forth, so it's much brighter.
Nice.
It's great.
They've got a little section there with couches for people that maybe want to wait or they want to sit there and read a book. So it's very nice. So I invite you all to come out for that. They are very, very excited. And then in April, it'll be our volunteer appreciation luncheon. That is scheduled for April 19th, I believe, which is a Wednesday. And we will probably be doing that at Ewing's. Once we get that confirmed, I'll send invitations out to the board.
Thank
And
you.
that's my report.
Appreciate it, Ms. Deb. Dr. Finstead? Lord George, sir.
Dr. Finstead is actually out of the country.
Well, I'm
You leave a
going with it.
report?
You're too late.
You didn't leave a report? Okay.
He left without
Okay,
you.
that's surprising. All right, I can't say I blame him.
Yeah.
Mr. McGlow?
Okay, great, thank you. We received, Bob and I have been doing some research on last, I think at the board, building and planning committee. We talked about the new state requirements that all skilled nursing facilities must have its own separate power source for emergency backups. We were able to find out that in fact, distinct part facilities that are inside the hospital do not require to be upgraded. So that's probably about $1 million savings for us when all is said and done. So yeah, we've been excluded from that piece of legislation.
Fantastic.
So, and I've got that in writing and so forth. The other thing too.
Tim,
Yes,
could I ask a quick,
sure.
are they inside us or are we inside them?
No, they're inside, they're considered a part of the whole hospital. Because they're on the same power systems and
Okay.
generator systems that we have for the hospital. And so that was the issue. Like, for example, Ridgecrest has a skilled nursing facility that's external to the hospital. It's considered a distinct part because it's on the campus, but they will have to put a generator in for their skilled nursing facility. Ours is in the building with us, so with the rest of the hospital, so therefore it does not. So we
Or
were,
single building?
yeah, lucky with that one.
Yeah, although they're much larger than us, we still sort of get to skate. Cool. Thanks, Tim.
You're welcome. We're also, again, I think I mentioned last time, the state had been with this new CalAIM program pushing to convert a lot of the straight Medi-Cal patients into one of the Medi-Cal managed care plans. And so our residents all received notices that they were going to have to pick one of the two plans. Well, at the time, we had a contract that we had just gotten signed with Current Health Systems to put the SNF on. And Andy, working our contracts person, got on the phone right away with HealthNet. Pleased to report that HealthNet has also given us a contract for the SNF. So now we have both of the two Medi-Cal managed care plans contract with us. And so that will be great because now that gives us another source of patients coming in as well. So that again is going great. And that just literally came through last week. Again, you talked about the thrift store. Again, like I said, just I think everybody's gonna be very pleased at how it looks and so forth. It was repainted. They did the floor, new carpeting on the floors and everything else. Came out very nice. And then let me see here. We had our licensing and certification survey by CDPH. This was about 2 weeks ago. And this was both a federal and a state survey. The last time they were here was about 5 years ago. I think prior to that, it had been about almost 10 years before they were here. So they've been running way behind on getting their survey. It's supposed to be like every 3 years. And so anyway, like I said, for the most part, like I said, they certainly found things they're always going to, especially when they haven't been here for 5 years. We're still waiting for that report to come back. My guess is it should be this week sometime, because normally it's 10 days after the survey. That was followed up by a life safety survey, usually follows those surveys. And that survey actually went pretty well. And so that we did take some hits there. One of the biggest issues, I think, was on some of our doors that they didn't quite latch right. We had two of our doors in the lobby, one that goes out to the nursing unit and one that comes into the administrative hallway, which I think at one time were set up as electronic doors, and those were abandoned some time ago. I have no idea when that happened, but the doors are always open. So there's a crash bar going out, leading out into the lobby and then outside from there. But those have always been left open or in an open position. So those we're gonna have to put new locks and stuff on there to make sure that we can't secure those at night and so forth. So that's one of the things we'll get hit with. There's been a couple of other things that as well that came up from there. But all in all, I think, her comment was a very good survey. So anyway, so we'll wait to get those results back as well. We are working with the Kern Valley Sun to create a new medical publication for the Valley that will highlight our services and our providers. And also other resources, healthcare resources here in the Valley. And that'll go out to, I guess, the whole community. That'll be published sometime, I believe, in early March. And so we're in the process right now of having our managers put together their write-ups for their departments. We're going to do photos and so forth and try to get this whole thing put together for us. So it'll be a great opportunity because it hasn't been done in a long, long time, if ever up here.
Never.
So that will be used to really highlight us. And again, it was one of the things we talked about from our strategic planning. And then lastly, I reached out to Kern County Public Works, to Director Sam Lux's office and spoke to them regarding our issues with the floodplain requirements for our building down the street here. And explained the whole situation to them in terms of what we're going through and the fact that floodplain cannot seem to put their hands on the study and so forth. They're open for a meeting with us. They will have the director as well as the assistant director, which is his name is Chamblin, I believe it was, participating on that, as well as the head of the floodplain department. So they're trying to work together, get some dates put together for us, and then I will let everybody know. I know Ross and Plant wanted to come to that meeting and a couple of others. So we'll, as soon as I have a date from them, we will get that set up and we'll get down there and see if we can't figure that out. And I told them, I got on your department's floodplain maps, and they're the FEMA maps, which basically shows that this is not a floodplain for us. And so the flood routes go around the community like we've always known they have, and so forth. And that's what's on FEMA's guidelines. So the fact that they're through their own websites are putting out that that's where the flood goes, then there's no reason we should be held up on this building to have to put in extra, waterproof doors and all these kinds of things like they required us to do on the clinic. So anyway, we're prepared to take on that battle. So, and that's what I've got. I thank Ross for that lead for that contact. So any questions on that?
Brad, I have questions.
Go ahead, Ross.
Tim, on that, on the floodplain issue, and Scott, maybe you can chime in on this too. It seems like, they're trying to hold us to a standard for which they can't prove whatever standard they're trying to hold us to. They can't prove their case. And so it doesn't seem like there's a nexus between their requirement and our impact on the floodplain. And I just wonder if we, in meeting with them, if it's not going well and it doesn't look like it's going to go our way, is that a valid legal point to make at this meeting?
We would just have to see what evidence they are using for their determination of the floodplain. They aren't bound by the FEMA maps. So we would need to see if they have come to their own independent conclusions by studies they've done, or see if they are just simply relying on FEMA. I don't know the answer to that question, so I don't know what argument we might have against the position they're taking.
So one of the arguments is that they've done a detailed study in years past, and as a result of that study, they have a map that shows a floodplain different than FEMA's. But they can't produce that record. They don't have it anymore. They don't have their hands on it. All they have is the map that says this is the result of the study, but they don't have the study. So can't we make the argument that that study is invalid if they can't prove it, if they can't back it up?
They have a hand-drawn map. It's apparently all that's left of this thing. And like I said, they indicated that apparently at some point in time, it was approved by the County Board of Supervisors. I'm planning to reach out to Carol, Catherine Cross, Kraus, thank you, who's the secretary for the Board of Supervisors, because apparently if anybody can find anything, she can. Like I said, at this point in time, like I said, all of our inquiries into them about that study have basically gone unanswered because they cannot put their hands on the study. And it was done by one of their own employees who apparently lived up here at some point in time, and so forth. Don't know what he's basing his findings on. Per FEMA, it clearly demonstrates that it is not any 500-year plane. And so he went off and did his own calculations on his own and, you know, presented them to the Board of Supervisors, and apparently some time ago, a long time ago, got it approved, but nobody can prove it. So anyway, that's kind of where we sit it right at this point in time. So, but the point is, like I said, on their own websites, they're posting that these are the floodplains for this area, and they're using the FEMA maps. They're not using their own maps, and there's no notes or subnotes on this that there's some other condition for certain parts of these maps or anything like that. It's just here it is. So we'll and that's what I shared with them this morning. So
Well, and
So from a legal perspective, if a study and a map was presented to the Board of Supervisors and it was approved by the Board of Supervisors, then legally there will be a presumption that it is legal and valid and it was appropriately approved. It would be us to prove that there's either no substantial evidence or approval was an abuse of discretion if we seek to challenge that flood map. The fact that they can't find the study now doesn't mean there's no substantial evidence. It just means that whatever evidence they had when it was approved, they're unable to locate. So from a legal perspective, it would probably be a difficult fight just because the law presumes that when governing boards for public agencies make decisions, that they're valid decisions. And so it can be very difficult to overturn the discretion of a governing board or overturn a decision of a governing board that is within their discretion. So, yeah, it's unfortunate you can't find the study, but that doesn't mean presumptively that it is invalid.
Thank you.
Scott, if the new supervisor went to the board or made an attempt to overturn that by the other supervisors and he recommended it, could that be a way out?
A political solution is probably easier than a legal solution in this case.
Okay.
So with his recommendation, in all probability, it could happen.
Well,
if the board
so
agree, rest of the board.
I suspect your fight is not going to be against the Board of Supervisors. Your fight is going to be against county staff, and so I guess it will depend upon the sway that the county staff there has over the other 4 supervisors.
I don't think they care about Mount Mesa, Scott. Anyway, thank you for talking to me.
Ross, do you have anything else?
No, thank you. That was very informative.
Thank you. Catherine?
do any of the other businesses fall into the same category?
technically anybody within the floodplain
And-
meeting conditions would.
Have we spoke to them and nobody?
So
had-
I spoke with Candace down the street who had to do some
after the Erskine fire, she was trying to do some improvements, and they're making her do the same thing with the floodplain. She owns Red Rooster.
Hmm.
So she's under the same restrictions that I think we are.
Hey, Scott, one other question. So the county's regulation, the threshold for us having to make improvements is based on the value of the building and the value of our construction. Since we're a government agency and we have to pay prevailing wage, and a private company wouldn't be under those kinds of restrictions, it makes our costs higher. Can we use that as an argument to say their dollar threshold is an invalid nexus for this requirement?
Well, so I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the wording for that particular requirement. Is it the value of the building or the cost to reconstruct?
The value of the building against the cost of the renovations. Yeah.
Okay, and so what does it require then when you take those two factors into consideration?
There was a percentage, I believe it was 50%. If the cost of renovation exceeded 50% of the assessed value of the building, then you would have to do them. And I have no idea where that regulation came from.
Yeah,
so.
that's just, they made it out of thin air. It's ridiculous.
So the prevailing wage argument, so we're legally required to pay prevailing wage. So would they take that into consideration? Ross, I don't know the answer to your question. I'm not sure if we could make that argument or not. It certainly wouldn't hurt to try, but I would have to think about it a little bit and look at the regulations because I just do not know the answer off the top of my head.
Okay.
Thank you. Gene, any questions?
No, I still think that rather than getting in the weeds, if we get Peterson to present it to the board and just wipe it out, the whole thing. But at any rate, thanks for listening to me.
No, thank you. Ms. Catherine, anything?
No, I have lots of thoughts, but
Okay.
I'll keep those to myself at the moment. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Tim. You're welcome. Okay. Chief Nursing Officer, Mr. Gordon.
Hello, everyone. So I am your monthly COVID reporter here. It seems to be waning down in February. We were down to 3.3% in January, and we've only had one case in February so far. Influenza, for all of this year, we've only had one case of influenza through the ER, so that's a good thing as well. So these are good numbers. I hope the trend continues. We will be providing applications for people who, once we start charging for rides within the valley, we can provide the members who have an insurance that provides reimbursement with the application and the instruction on how to get reimbursed for that cost. So we're thinking 60 cents a mile is what we're going to start charging in April. We are in the process also of writing policies and procedures for that department. KJ is really working pretty hard on it. He's kind of excited about it. Our CNA class is scheduled to begin early April, and we're thinking of ways to improve the attrition rates. We've not had great success with attrition in that area. So we got a new instructor, Ben Torres. He's a pretty bright LVN that was on skilled nursing center for a year or more, and now he's on med surge, but he has time to do the class, and he's really excited about getting started on it. So, and I'm also looking at getting an instructor to teach a new telemetry class, which would give me some more opportunity on med surge to have tele watchers. I really don't have anything else unless there are questions.
I
Catherine?
have a question.
Sure.
The gentleman that is working on the policies and procedures.
Yeah, KJ.
And so, is he up to date and fluent with HIPAA regulations?
He's taken the HIPAA training program that we have, yes.
Okay, and so in these policies and procedures and him having the HIPAA information, do you know where I'm going with this, Mark?
No,
Okay, so this gentleman has called a facility and tried to get information about whether who canceled the appointment, the person or the doctor, and given names and asked those facilities, two different people. Isn't there any way you can just give me the information?
okay. I wasn't aware of that. This is the first time hearing of it.
Wanted to make sure, that's why I wanted to know. So I would, I mean, he spoke to two different people and
Okay,
was requesting, so if that's, I would check into
I will check into that.
your policies and procedures. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
You can know the reason why he's doing it. It's just
It's
the way
be,
he's doing it. Yeah.
well, if he's someone driving,
Yeah.
he shouldn't even be telling anybody he's driving somebody to where he's going.
Right. Well, in other words, if let's say it's another facility that was getting a patient to come here, we were taking a patient to another facility and they canceled. Part of it is, again, one of the things they're trying to do is to monitor how many times someone's canceling on us, which is tying up resources because we can't.
No, I totally
And I
understand
think
that.
that's where some of that's coming from, but I don't realize what he's doing in terms of calling and finding out.
Well, he.
Yeah.
I will track it down, Catherine. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
you're welcome.
that's the only thing I can think of from that perspective. So,
Well, in any perspective,
Yeah.
it's inappropriate.
right,
So,
exactly.
Anything else, Ms. Catherine?
no, that's it. That's,
Sure,
I'm sure.
just checking.
Just, you know,
Okay.
I,
No, thanks.
so, but you're welcome. Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Mr. Parks, any questions? You're on mute, sir. No, Mr. Elliott? Did we lose everybody? Can you see?
Barbara, can you hear?
We can see you and we can hear you.
Thank
I can hear you.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Mr. Recupero, floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. So we're gonna look at the month of December, halfway through the fiscal year. And we're gonna start with these graphs that trend out on a monthly basis, the volumes.
Just go ahead
Specifically,
and take that stuff out of there.
what we want to look at today, because December had what really defined the month was the very high increase we had in inpatient acute days. You can see how we've gone from 71 to 121, 154 in December. And by the way, January was even higher.
Hey, Dave, forgive me, what page are you on?
Oh, I'm sorry. We are on page 55.
Thank you.
So acute days higher in December. Also, thankfully, when we look at January, we'll see another high number. That even though the COVID and the flu isn't, must be getting other admissions that are having us increase the amount of utilization on the acute side. I don't know, Mark, do you have any general thinking on why December was so high?
No, I don't. It's just one of those things.
Okay.
We had a couple of COVID cases, but nothing major. And
So
it's turned into there were a lot of patients who had a lot of days in there. So
I see.
And the insurances were not wanting us to turn them into swing beds for some reason. I'm not sure why, but it just I noticed that that did happen. There were a lot of acute care days that were multiple days with one patient, I'll say.
Yeah, if you looked at the statistics, I mean, our average length of stay or our average length of stay was only about 3.6 days in acute.
Yeah, so,
But if you look at the swing beds, it was 20 days versus a budget of 14. So the swing beds, I think, accounted for some of that. So
yeah, and it's hard to ask a question because December was almost 2 months ago.
yeah.
So we're already in February. So anyway, that's how it went. It resulted in our bottom line for the month going to the P&L. Almost hit budget, 265,000 total net surplus compared to the budget of 335. Only 69,000 off. Significantly better than last December that only had a bottom line of 26,699. So definitely had a much better December than we've had the last couple months. We probably the most negative part of the profit loss for December is this expense category, 208,000 over budget on expenses, or 7.5% over. We have a good explanation for it that we all know ahead of time. What we did is we approved the bonuses that not only help the employees get an extra 500 in the month of December, but it will also equate to an extra 500 when they get their eventual payment from the state as a result of the formulas that they use for what's called the ERC program for the state of California. But that was 120,000. So without that, and without the adjustments made for our normal annual increases of on average 2.5%, we should feel pretty good that the majority of these budget variances were for a one-time reason of the bonus program that we put in place last month. Looking at our year-to-date picture, we are now halfway through, and we have half of the budget number, about $1 million off of budget. And just a reminder, we had a very aggressive budget this year because what I was trying to do is stress the fact that we have to perform really well. If we don't get our FEMA money in order for us to hit all our targets, because the cost of our construction was going up so high, that we'll have to operate at a very high level in order to make sure we don't run out of money, or either that or stop the project. But part of that is also dependent on IGT payments, which have been low this year so far, only 367,000. We do have a little bit of a less projected number. The budget number was over 11 million, so about $1 million of it, 1.5 million of it is getting pushed into the second or third month of fiscal 23, which starts next July, or fiscal 24, excuse me. And that, so it's really not a cut in IGT payments, but it's more of a delay. But in terms of what we show in the current projected year, we have to show a lower projected number because of that delay in that particular IGT payment. The trend, and when you look at line 1, inpatient revenues, you can see the big number in December of 1,896,000, how that compares favorably. 1.4 million, 1 million, 1.2, 1.2, 1.1 million. Then you go back another 6 months before that, and you can see the numbers, 673,000, a lot lower than the 1.9 million that we had in December, which shows that our inpatient volumes definitely helped our bottom line for the month of December. So because we have so much else on the agenda, I wanted to keep it brief and just see if there are any questions.
Catherine?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Elliott?
No questions.
Mr. Parks? Mr. Parks? Okay, maybe not. I have no questions, Dave. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, no questions.
Thank you.
Okay. Under moving on to item G, old business, we have none. So new business, item H, number 1. Mr. McGlue, Administrative Services,
That's page
103 to 114.
All right. We, our provider, we have to, a requirement to provide behavioral health services to our SNF residents. And our provider that's been there for a number of years now, left her group, Dr. Nee and so forth. And she's gone with another group and unfortunately is not able to continue to assist us with that. So we had to go out and find a new provider. And so we're connected with the Psychiatric Wellness Center down in Bakersfield. And so they've agreed to a contract. It's actually similar to the old contract. The only nice part is it's $1,000 a month cheaper than the old group. The nice part I like about it is this group is actually based here locally. So if we need help, we can more readily get that. The other group is down in the Valley in LA. And so I'm very comfortable with this agreement moving forward. And this is a flat per month fee of $2,000.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Catherine.
I have a question.
Scott?
Tim, did they, I assume that you sent them my changes to the agreement?
Yes, and they agreed to all of them.
All right, they're not all in here.
All right.
Well, like, I was just looking at confidentiality because that's when I always go to first to see if they made the changes, and it's still the original wording in there. And since I'm supposed to be the only one other than you who can see it, and it's now in an open session, and the public has the right to see it. I mean, that's.
Which page is that, Scott?
It is. Where was it? It was just there. Oh, sorry, I'm looking.
Page 108.
Yeah. So I'm totally fine with the board approving this agreement, and then maybe we can just go back, Tim, and talk with them and clean it up.
Okay. I'll go back and look and find with this because, like I said, I was informed that they had agreed to the changes. So I'll do that.
Yeah. So I'm just looking. If you look on page 108 and 109, that's the confidentiality clause, and for the patient information, that's fine. But in terms of the agreement, I mean, obviously it's a public record and it's being considered in an open board meeting. So we would just want to clean that up so we don't have any issues with them down the road.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Right.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily the information, but as related, it's just the fact that they said this needed to be not disclosed. Okay, and again, because we're public, it has to be disclosed. So,
yeah.
So they that one they must have missed. So. Okay,
Mr. Elliott, stand with the motion with the corrections.
Yes.
You have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Ms. Catherine, your vote.
Yes.
Mr. Parks,
Yes.
Mr. Elliott.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Thank you, Tim.
thanks.
Okay, going on to item 2, resolution 23-03. It's Dave. This one's for you.
And we've pretty much exhausted this topic, except taking the final step of having the board and having legal look at the final contract between us and UBS, so that we can.
Is the line of credit?
It's the line of credit.
Oh, the line of credit. Okay, I'm sorry. On the line of credit, we are at a point where they've given us a new renewal, and they've upped the allowable amounts from 5 million to 7 million. And that language is in the packet of what that agreement involves. The nice part about it is if we end up not using the line of credit, there's virtually no cost to us. So they were able to extend that to us again this term. I was pushing to have it increase from 5 to 7 million. Just in the unforeseen case that the organization would run into some type of unexpected financial demise. And typically these are the kind of things that keep organizations afloat for a couple of years beyond when major tragedies hit financially. The extra 2 million could very well really buy us quite a bit of time before we get everything fixed. So it's always good to have that as an insurance in the background, and the best time to get it is when you're in good financial shape. They're willing to give you increases on your a line of credit, so I took advantage of it.
Yeah, because this potentially represents an extension of liability or credit to the organization, I wanted to bring it back to the board for your approval. So that's what this is here for.
Yeah, we haven't used it. We had a 5 million in place the last 3 years. We haven't used it at all because we don't, we're sitting good based on our cash position, but still at the same time, it's good to have it in place.
Gene, you have a question?
No.
Okay. Hey, Dave, I just have a question. You say virtually no cost versus no cost. What's virtually stand for?
I was trying to think, is there any cost? Yeah, there was to actually put the deal in place. And I'm thinking there was a 1,000 or a couple thousand fee to actually get the this contract completed. It was more on the legal side. The attorneys have to have money.
Well, I understand that, but it's nice to know what that number is instead of.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't off the top of my head. I'm going to say it was 2,000, the fee for that.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's the number.
Did we pay their attorney's fees? Is that what you're talking about?
That was just the normal cost of a renewal. I'm not sure exactly how they define it.
All right. So that was
I assumed it had to do with legal, but it could have been something else.
okay.
I'm assuming that you were nice enough to take that to the finance team and make them aware of it, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Ross, any questions on this item?
Oh, thank you.
Gene, any questions?
No.
Ms. Catherine?
No question.
Okay. I guess we need to take a vote and get a motion to accept as presented.
I'll make a motion. We accept as presented.
Okay, can we get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Catherine. Gene, your vote?
All day.
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Catherine?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Was there a resolution, Heidi, with this?
That was the resolution.
So 15 to 16. Page 115, 116.
Okay,
That's the item we were just discussing, was the resolution.
Gotcha.
So we would need the board to approve that resolution as well.
That's correct. That's what we were just voting on, sir. But
Yes. Okay.
moving on to item 3. First amendment of line of credit, or to the line of credit, forgive me.
Yes. So that's the one where I was saying we beat it to death in terms of all the ins and outs of how we would do it and what the benefits are. The main piece we need to do today is for the board to either agree or not for us to move forward with our relationship with UBS. The contract's been,
we're not on UBS.
We're not on UBS, Dave.
I'm sorry.
We're on First Amendment.
Page 117.
Okay, I'll pull that up.
That's the amendment to the line of credit. That's the one that changes it from 5 million to 7 million.
So we're still on line of credit.
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. What do you need from me on that?
Yeah, let me ask you a question. How did the resolution not approve the amended line of credit?
It does.
Yeah, we're talking about 2. Is it the same item on?
It's
2?
the same item. I'm surprised it's a separate item on the agenda. So
Yeah, that
we
was
really,
something they required, yes.
yeah. So
The resolution does call for the increase to the $7 million.
I see. Okay.
My view is that 2 and 3 are essentially part and parcel of the same thing when I looked at them.
Yeah.
Okay, Scott, do we need a separate motion on 3 being that's the case?
Well, so the resolution approved the form of the First Amendment to the line of credit and authorized its execution. So, in my opinion, you're authorizing the First Amendment to the line of credit by approving the resolution.
Okay,
So that we don't need it.
thank you.
Sorry for the confusion.
It's okay. Thank you, Dick. And let's move on to number 4, UFB portfolio. Now
Yes.
you have Dave.
Well, you know where I really want to start out is the markets today went up 20 basis points on the 2 and 3 year treasury, which is the whole reason I wanted to do this 2 months ago. So I'm really happy that it's taken this long. And so thank you to Scott for making sure we jump through all these hoops because we're talking about 150 to 200,000 just the increase today on an annual basis of if we move forward with what the current rates change to today.
I would like to say that was my foresight, but I don't think that has to do with it. I'm not taking the jobs of any UBS, I promise you.
So anyway, it still looks like a very good deal for us. UBS has a good reputation. They do a similar type of service with current health systems and have had good reviews. So we really feel confident that they can serve us in terms of giving us the advice and moving forward on having a good, diversified and safe portfolio.
Dave, forgive me, what is that number today on their CDs?
It went up to 4.25, I believe, on the 2 year. In the 3 year is still over 4. So we really are going to have something even in excess of 4% on our rate of return.
I have a question in regards to the, we have a local firm here, even on a 1 year CD is at 4.7 right now.
Yeah, the 1 year, if we end up doing a 1 year CD, which we may end up doing a higher percentage than what I originally thought because of the way the markets are moving. And that's a good example of where UBS can give us some advice on maybe changing the ladder in having a higher amount maturing earlier because the rates seem to be higher on the 1 year versus the 2 and 3 year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to see us leave money on the table is what I'm asking.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was going to add another 2 million of CDs that we were going to use First Foundation, the firm that we just approved the 7 million line of credit. They will do a number of CDs where I can just go to one place and not worry about the FDIC coverage of the 250,000 per CD. They could do 2 million of it and it would all be protected under the arrangement. So my point to you on your question about the CD rate is, yeah, we will also be making that part of our investment portfolio as well. But that's not necessarily what we were proposing to do with UBS.
I understand that. Thank you.
It's confusing. So I'm asking the board to give me permission so we can move the money out of current investments that are earning anywhere from 2/3 of 1% to 2.5% into something more like 4 to 5% rates of return and all safe investments, and then using UBS to make those decisions.
Okay. Gene, do you have any
Dave,
questions?
yes, what's the cost? They were talking about 30,000 or something, or what are we paying them?
So if you do the math, whatever we end up investing with them, you multiply it by 0.20 of 1%. So they were at 0.25 when they started, and they claim that they never go down from that number. Well, I got them down at least 5 basis points.
It's tough negotiator, Ira.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I don't know.
Yeah,
He's very tough. Yeah, he's extremely tough.
That
He
was my
was
only
listening
question.
in, but I had to say that while he was listening.
Now, you can go ahead and I'm not sure who that was talking about the 4%.
That's
I think that's only for 3 months, and then it's back to regular rates, and it's all kinds of strings tied to it.
Nope.
But if you saw something that you liked, could you do it yourself and not pay them anything, or do we have to use them no matter what?
Well, Ira's here to answer that question. Do you want to have him involved in the discussion?
Well, yeah.
So Ira, can I make that call?
So sort of. It's not like, you're going to go to Walmart and pick these bonds off a shelf. I mean, you've got to get them from someplace. So you need to have a relationship with, it doesn't have to do with us, but you need to have a relationship with a firm that can do what you would like them to do. And why you ought to pick UBS's, I mean, just because of the business that we do, if you go to like a firm, a lot of times they have a broker dealer that they're buying from, and you get whatever that broker dealer is charging. With us, we actually deal with approximately 200 broker dealers across the country. So whenever we purchase a bond within the category of bonds that we're buying, we have gigantic choices. I mean, the goal always is to get the highest yield, the lowest cost. Having that ability to go to 200 firms versus one is gigantic. So yeah, I mean,
I've got a little more specific, referring to the FDIC, that we're restricted on what we can put in. You're saying that you're guaranteeing our investments that you recommend?
No, that was on the First Foundation line of credit issue.
Yeah, the FDIC, I was talking about our relationship with First Foundation. So that question isn't really relevant to Ira.
well, but think about why you need FDIC insurance. You put your money in the bank takes your money and gives it to somebody else. So they're guaranteeing that if you need it back, they have the ability to get it back to you, but you're commingling your money with theirs. With us, you have an account in your name. We're buying assets for you. Your assets are identified, and we're not commingling with anybody else. Your assets are always your assets. Does that
Okay,
make sense?
well, it makes sense, except they were saying, don't invest there because it's only covered up to 250. You're not covering any.
Again, we're not commingling your money with anybody else. So
Yeah, right. So we would have more protection. Let's just say Alta One was, give us a CD for 4.5%. If it wouldn't make any difference about if all the credit unions' initials are different. But at any rate, it doesn't make a lot of difference. We're only in it for a couple of years. So
That's right.
Thanks,
And
Ira.
we're mostly buying US Treasuries, which is backed by the government, US government that can print money. So
it's the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. In
yes,
fact,
so we can't get much safer.
Not what it used to be.
the FDIC ran out of money in
Which
2008.
government? Which government are you talking about?
We're going to
you.
leave that alone. I had a feeling this agenda item was going to get messy, so you're not surprising me, Gene.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, I'll make a motion. We approve it as presented if we need a motion now.
We will need a motion. Mr. Elliott, do you have any questions?
No questions, but I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Ms. Catherine, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, we'll take a vote. Mr. Parks,
Yes.
Mr. Elliott,
Yes.
Ms. Catherine,
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Director's comments not appearing on the agenda. Ross, would you like to start?
I have nothing to share today. Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Parks?
Just again, like to thank everybody for listening to me, and I've been sort of in Bakersfield a lot and on the phone. I'm looking forward to being back where I can look across the table at you guys and your pretty faces.
That way we can pick on you in person, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Catherine?
I do not have anything other than, I'm looking forward to seeing what's being done at the thrift store.
Me too. Yep. All I can say is thank you, and thank everyone for being here, always participating. It's what makes us who we are. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. We're adjourned. Be safe.
Thank you.
Ira, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye. Cool. So,